On Monday, we get a total solar eclipse as the Earth passes in the shadow of the moon. Now, this happens about twice a year, so that's not a really big deal, but this one is a big deal because it's passing over the continental United States, and parts of Canada get a partial eclipse. The first time since 1979. In the Okanagan, we're going to get about 83% blockage. Colleen O'Hare from the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada Okanagan Centre joins us today to talk about this, and this is really an exciting event, isn't it?
It really is, yes.
And very rare too, right?
Well, like you say, 2 to 5 solar eclipses happen each year, but of course they're spread out across the whole world. Right. So for any one place to experience a solar eclipse takes about 400 years.
Okay, so we're not going to see another one in this area for a long time.
This area,
yes. Let's talk about the science behind it a little bit. Explain how it happens, because you would think with it happening that more frequently, we'd see it a little more often, and it has to do with the elliptical, is it?
That elliptical, yes.
Yes. Orbit of the moon, I guess, and the fact that it's tilted about 5 degrees.
That's correct. So a total solar eclipse happens when the moon comes in between the Earth and the sun. Why it doesn't happen every month? Because of that 5-degree tilt. So sometimes the moon's shadow is lower or higher than the Earth and doesn't hit right on the Earth. Now the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but it's also 400 times closer. So we are at a perfect part in the history of the world that the moon can completely cover the sun.
And does it have to be a full moon?
For a solar eclipse, of course that's during the day, so that would be a new moon. Okay. A lunar eclipse happens during a full moon.
Okay, now a lot of people are going to the United States of America to see this, and you're one of them.
Yes.
Tell us where you're going and why you chose that place, and maybe the fact that you might not necessarily stay in your first chosen spot.
There's been lots and lots of studies on the weather across the United States, so we tried to pick one where the percentage of clouds in August is the lowest. So we are going to Eastern Oregon. We're staging in Pendleton at 4 a.m. that morning, and then taking the 2.5-hour drive to our path of totality. The reason we might have to go somewhere else is because if there are clouds, you have to be mobile for a total eclipse. You have to be able to move to a clear spot.
And the total eclipse doesn't last all that long, does it?
Where we are, it's going to last 2 minutes and 3 seconds. So
no clouds. You don't want any clouds.
We do not want any clouds.
And what can people in the Okanagan expect then?
So we'll be able to watch the moon as it glides over the sun. It takes 2.5 to 3 hours for the total eclipse, from the first time the moon bites at the sun to its last as it exits. And in the Okanagan, about 83% of the sun will be covered at maximum eclipse.
Okay, maybe talk a little bit more about the phases. And I've heard of this Bailey's beads, these sort of little lights on the edge of the
Certainly. So there are basically 4 phases to a total solar eclipse. First contact is when that moon just reaches and just starts taking a bite out of the sun. Second contact is when the moon edge hits the far side of the sun. Third contact, when the trailing edge of the moon leaves the edge of the sun. And fourth contact, when the moon is actually completely clear of the sun. The Bailey beads are I'm told they're beautiful. They are the sunlight shining through the valleys on the edge of the moon. And you get to see red because that part of the sun is the chromosphere, and it's quite red. So we see these
You haven't seen it before, I take
I
it.
have never seen a total eclipse. I'm very excited to be going to this one. There's also something called the diamond ring effect. Okay. So just a second or two before the moon has completely covered the sun, you get the nice glow of the sun around the outer atmosphere, and you get the last little bit of sunlight, and it looks like a diamond ring.
Okay, and that's only a few seconds, and Bailey's beads as well, not long.
Yes,
no.
yes.
Now we should be very clear on this, that people should not be looking at this, especially children. Let's talk about what you can do to view it. There's several ways you can do it, and you brought along some samples of glasses you can wear.
Yes. Yes, it's very important never ever to look at the sun with your unaided eye. It's even worse if you try and glance with binoculars or a telescope that isn't properly filtered. You can damage your eyes instantly in those cases. There are very simple, safe ways to look at the sun during an eclipse. The easiest one is using a pinhole camera. So I have a piece of cardboard here. with a little pinhole in it. You have that pointing to the sun and a white piece of paper behind where the projection happens. You can actually do a neat little experiment. Put different size holes, put square holes, put triangle holes, and see what effects you get. We also have Eclipse viewers, with special filter there that makes it safe to look at, as well as Eclipse glasses.
Okay, now a lot of people probably want to film it with their cell phone. Can we do that?
I am not really sure. I wouldn't want to test it with my cell phone. That's even when at only 83% of the moon covering the sun, that's still very, very bright light. And so especially do not look at it. And it's best to use special filters.
Okay. Now, behavioral patterns of animals in particular, and even humans, I guess, a long time ago, when they didn't know what was happening. Talk a little bit about what happens in the animal kingdom, because this is something completely out of their realm.
Well, in human history, of course, the sun and the moon dominated their life cycles. And so they were very careful in watching the sunrise, the sunset, timing all these out. And it wasn't really understood that this eclipse that happened was the moon passing in front of the sun. Most ancient civilizations thought it was a bad omen. Maybe the king was going to die or something like that. For animals, of course, once the moon has totally covered the sun, it gets cool.
They think it's nighttime.
And it gets dark.
Yeah.
So the cows come down from the pasture and the chickens go to roost.
Yeah.
And like say 2 minutes in this case, a solar eclipse can last up to 7 minutes. And then once the sun comes out again, the rooster crows and it's another day for them.
Right.
So I'm excited to see that kind of reaction with the animals around us.
Yeah. Now, of course, there's been a lot of sort of conspiracy theories and myths over the years. And I'm sure even today there's people saying bad things are going to happen, kind of thing.
Yes. Unfortunately, people don't reason scientifically, and they take things that they've heard about in the past or conspiracy theories and such. But this is a completely predictable happening event. They are predicted right down to the second. As a matter of fact, putting that history and the ancient peoples not understanding what was going on, in 1502, Christopher Columbus was on the island of Jamaica. And he had been demanding a lot from the people living there, food, etc. And they were getting a little upset with him. So they said, we're not going to do this anymore. And he said back, well, if you don't give me what I want, I will make the sun disappear. And sure enough, it happened right at that time. So extremely predictable.
He knew.
He knew. He did, yes.
And one final thing, just what is happening here in Kelowna on that day? What can people do? I know there's a big event that your society is putting on at the Kelowna Curling Club.
Yes, unfortunately, some of our members can't get down to the Path of Totality. So they're going to be set up at the Kelowna Curling Club from 9 a.m. to noon on Monday morning. They're going to have at least 3 different types of telescopes so you can view the eclipse totally safely. We'll be handing out the eclipse glasses and the viewers for people, showing them the pinhole cameras and things like that. And we're going to have 2 live feeds, one of what's happening as seen from Kelowna, and another one, what's happening as seen from the Path of Totality, so once that moon completely covers. So you'll get to experience both of them.
Okay, well, I hope you have a good time in Oregon.
Oh,
and that you see it, that it's not cloudy or smoky.
The weather is looking very good, although it is 7 days out, but the weather is looking very good. Historically, like I said, it's a best time to be in that part of Oregon as far as clouds are concerned. And yes, I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Pretty excited?
Yes, in my very first total eclipse. I'm just going to stand in awe, I think.